Now she's ready for the embers. The carp looks done. Let's have a taste. That really is nice. I'd like to introduce you to a nice way of cooking called a hangi. We dig a pit in the ground and we light a fire. On top of the fire we put rocks. Now these rocks get white hot and they fall in the pit. On top of these rocks we're going to put whatever food we've got to cook, and then I'm going to put saplings across, some sheeting, and then I'm going to bury it. We'll come back in an hour and a half and we've got a real tasty meal. Now it's so hot in there, everything gets cooked in its own juice. We can also boil water in there without a container. I'll show you that later. Now we sealed the oven, it's acting like a giant pressure cooker. Now I mentioned we can boil water. This is a rubber bag and you fill it with water, place this on the stone with your food. In an hour and a half, this water will boil. Now because we got indirect heat with no flame and there's water on the inside, this will not burst. So an hour and a half, the water will be safe to drink. This is a smoke teepee. This is how we make our jerky. Remember, we take lean strips of meat, they must be fat-free, about a 1/4 inch thick and as long as you wish. We can also cure fish inside it. We skewer the meat on wire, hang it across the centre, and we have a good hot fire at the bottom, and on top of this we put hardwood leaves, oak being the best. This generates lots and lots of smoke, and it dries the meat and it coats it with smoke, and bacteria can no longer penetrate the meat. Now we must do this for about 18 hours. As long as we keep the jerky dry, it will last indefinitely. Let's take a look inside. Bacteria can only survive in a 3% or more solution of moisture. So what we've done here, we dried the meat so there's no more moisture. We've also coated the meat with a film of smoke which contains chemicals, and this prevents bacteria from penetrating it. So as long as we keep that jerky dry, it will last us indefinitely. Now if I start with a pound of meat and we got 500 calories, by the time I've finished, I've got half a pound of meat, but I've still got 500 calories. So it's an excellent survival food. Let's take a look what the hangi's doing. Okay, start by removing the dirt from the middle, otherwise it'll all collapse in. Put it well out the way. This has been cooking for 2 hours. Once we get all the dirt off the sacking, peel it back carefully, and already the smell's hit my nostrils. This looks really good. The duck's cooked to a T. Let's have a look at the potatoes. Let's take a look inside. That's nicely cooked. It tastes real good too. Now food is going to help us keep condition. And because we started preserving food, if ever we got to walk to safety, we got some food to take with us.
During this last field segment, you mentioned when preparing the rabbit that we should bleed the animal and save the blood. What do we do with the blood collected?
Okay, it's always important, Steve, to save the blood because it's one of the few sources of salt that can be obtained in a survival situation. And so what we do, okay, bleed the animal by cutting the throat, collecting the blood, and allowing it to congeal, and it goes just like a hard cake. Now, by putting this in our soups and stews, we're getting all the vitamins, minerals, and most important, salt from the blood, and it's going to help us maintain our health.
Is it important to limit activity in order to reduce our caloric intake?
Yes, it sure is, Steve. We must be calorie conscious. Calories are like dollar bills. We've got to keep them in our wallet. So if I was just to lie on the floor and do nothing, I would use something like 800 calories. This is my basic rate of metabolism. I use calories to help me breathe, the muscles to support my frame, and to keep a constant temperature. The moment I start walking around, collecting firewood, getting water, I can double this to 1,500 calories. Now, in normal everyday life, we're probably on something like 3,500 calories. Depends on what profession you're doing. So in a survival situation, we're looking for something like 1,500 calories. So we mustn't waste any calorie. Okay, so we work at half pace and we rest as much as we can.
Okay, suppose we've been in a location for 3 weeks and no rescue has come. We have to find our way to civilization. And that brings us to the last element in our plan for survival, navigation. What's the first thing we should know?
Okay, a most important item to carry is a compass. Now, there's different types of compasses we can carry, and we should never partake on a journey without a compass. Here we got a prismatic, a silver, and a button compass.
What would you do if you lost your compass?
Okay, we can still maintain a heading by using what nature gives us. Okay, first we can use the shadow tip method. Now, we just take a stick about 1 meter tall and we place it in open ground and we mark the extent of the shadow. Now, the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west and the southerly arc. So as it's traversing around the sky, it moves. And so we wait something like 20 minutes and we mark the extent of the second shadow. We then draw a line through the 2 points and this gives us an east-west line. So then we got 90 degrees to this and we get a north-south line. Now also we can use the wind. Now we must know before we set out on any journey things like topographical information, which way the land lies, rivers flow, etc. We should also find out where the particular prevailing wind blows. Now this will give us an indication and we can see how plants are affected by it, and if we know the wind is in a certain direction, the way it sculptures maybe sand dunes or snow drifts, we can also get a direction from that. Now also we can use plants. Now plants get attracted by the sun and all the prolific blossoms and fruit is always on the southern side of a tree. So if we look at a cross section of a tree, okay, we see which is the side with the most leaf on and blossom, and again this is an indication of a direction.
Tell me, there's something I've always wondered if it's true. Does moss really grow on the north side of tree trunks?
Strictly speaking, no. But the lone tree in a meadow, okay, where it's not influenced by anything else, if there's going to be anything like a shade-loving organism like moss, it will be on the damp side of the tree, i.e. on the north side, because the sun on its travel from east to west always travels in a southerly arc, so the north side is always going to be in the shade.
If we needed to, could we make a compass?
Yes, we can, Steve. All we need is to take the needle from the survival tin, and we need a power source of at least 2 volts. And then from positive, wrap the needle with 12 coils of insulated wire back into negative, and what we've done is energize the needle. Now we know if we've done it because we touch it to metal and we can feel it attracting. This is exactly how they make compass needles in a factory. Now what we do now is put it on a leaf or a small piece of wood and float it on water, and it will settle down and point north and south, the point being north. Now there's other methods. If we put the needle in the ground at an angle of 78 degrees, and this is the angle where the magnetic field enters Earth at this particular point on Earth. And so what we do, we strike it 4 times with metal. It mustn't be stainless or copper or brass, but mild steel, i.e. a knife. And what we've done again, we've taken advantage of the magnetic field, we've energized the needle, and we've aligned all the molecules of the needle, and again, when we take it out, the point will point north. Again, put it on grass or a leaf, float it on water, and it will give us north-south line. And there's one other method we can use. If you've got a magnet with you, just stroke the needle with a magnet, and again, it lines up all the molecules of the metal. They will point north and south, and we can maintain a direction this way.
Okay, do we always travel by day?
In difficult country, like mountainous or woods, yes, because otherwise we're prone to injury. But however, when we go to the desert, we travel at night.
So if we have to travel by night, we have a whole different set of navigation problems. How do we do it?
At night, we've got to use the stars. Now, the stars, they're all in constellations, and they all revolve one star, Polaris. And this is the only star in the sky that's not moving. So, to indicate Polaris, it's not the brightest star. We need these pointers to be able to pick it out. So the first one we're going to is the Plough, also known as the Big Dipper or the Panhandle. Now what we do, we go to the 2 pointers, and we go 4 times the distance, and you see we come to Polaris. Now, the Plough is only in the sky at certain times of the year. And the further south we go, we start losing it. So we need to know another constellation. Now, real opposite the Plough comes Cassiopeia. And again, if we go to the 2 extreme left stars, and then using the center star of the 2, 4 times that distance, and we come to Polaris again. Now, further south we go again, we start losing Cassiopeia. So now we use Orion. Now, the belt of Orion, the 3 stars, is smack above the equator. So to get north, we just go to the extreme right-hand side of the constellation and draw a line, and as it comes over our head, that's going to point north. So no matter where we find ourselves, we can always get a direction from the stars.
Well, Lofty, we've learned a lot from this outdoor survival program. We know we have to have a plan for survival. P for protection, L for location, A for acquisition, and N for navigation. I wouldn't want to be in a real survival situation without the skills you've taught us today. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
You now have the benefit of my knowledge that has taken me a lifetime of training and experience to acquire. But don't think just watching this video makes you a survivor. What you must do is go out and practice these new learnt skills. Now look at survival training as a pyramid. The base is the will to survive. Remember, this is a basic instinct, it's in everyone, but it's getting weaker and weaker as we get more civilized. So we must start on a firm foundation, otherwise the pyramid will topple. So on the bottom is the will to survive. Now above this we add all the knowledge. Now there's a lot of knowledge in this video, and this is what we must practice. Remember, survival is a practical subject, so we must turn this knowledge into skills. Practice what you've seen. It's no good just talking about it. We must know how to light a fire, how to procure food, and all the other skills shown. Now to top off the pyramid comes kit. Remember, we must be prepared. So we always carry our survival tin and our knife, and if the conditions dictate, we carry a parang. So we must be prepared. Now with all the kit and the knowledge, we are now ready to tackle anything, and we can now survive anywhere in the world.
Before we leave, could you show us just what sort of equipment you carry for survival?
This is my survival kit, Steve, and remember, it's the peak of the pyramid. Let's remove these compasses. Okay, starting with the button compass, what else have we got in the tin? Heliograph for attracting attention. We can also use the shiny surface of the inside of the lid. The flint and steel for fire lighting, what you've already seen. Brass wire from where we make our snares, and also the pot handle, or any time we need a firm fixing. This is the beta light, and again it gives us 10 years of continuous light. We can read our maps with it, we can make notes at night using this. The scalpel blade, it's very sharp, and you saw this being used to make jerky from the duck. Now the cotton wool is ideal for lighting fire, but also it stops all the contents of the tin from rattling, so it keeps it nice and snug and secure. Now with the medication, I'll come back to this, but basically potassium permanganate. I'll show you what sort of solutions we can make from it. Now with medications, it's very important to have as much medical knowledge prior to any journey as possible. So the more knowledge you got will dictate what sort of pills you're going to carry. But think through what ailments are you likely to get in a survival situation, and probably one of pain, so we need an analgesic, maybe an antihistamine if we get stung. Also, if we're in a malaria area, we're going to need anti-malaria tablets. Okay, this is the wire saw. Again, it's a flexible saw. It will cut wood, bone and metal. A small piece of candle. This is ideal for lighting fire under difficult conditions. The medical swab, again for cleaning up a wound prior to binding. Fishing kit, and remember, a small hook catches large fish and small fish, whereas a large hook will only catch large fish. Puree tabs, this is good when it's not convenient to boil our water. This is the second method. Remember, we filter our water first and then we add the puree tab. This is a condom, and again, this will carry 2 pints of water. Remember, we only use this as a membrane. We must wrap it inside something more solid, like our jacket, and then we can carry it safely. And finally, plasters. These are for minor abrasions or blisters. Okay, cover the wound with the plaster, and it's going to be more comfortable. Okay, now with the potassium permanganate, what we're looking to do is, you've seen it lighting fire, but now we mix it to this solution and you see it's light red. This is good for sterilizing water. We make it till it's a darker red coming up for crimson, and again we use this for an antiseptic. And finally, this is a dark purple, and we use it as an antifungicidal when we get splits between our toes, athlete's foot. This is what we treat it with. So potassium permanganate, it's a real versatile chemical to carry, and it's got all them uses. Now you got the knowledge and you know what kit to take, leave the comfort of your house, get up in the hills, go to the woods, and put all this into practice. Remember, survival is a practical skill.